Hello, hello, it's me again, the snarky juror. I kind of missed a day, but luckily today was an off day of court. I just didn't have the energy to do it yesterday. So we're a day behind, but that's the way it goes with me. I mowed half of the backyard, and that took all the energy I had for the rest of the day. That's my life, that's the way it goes. So I'm doing it today. We're not missing anything. There's a lot of things that I see on other channels that are really interesting, but I don't know how to snip and clip and share and edit and do all that stuff. And even if I did, I don't have the energy to do it. That's the main problem. I don't have the energy. So you're stuck with what I'm making. Hopefully, it gives you enough interest to do some research on your own and go down some of these rabbit holes. And there's a lot of them. Okay. So perhaps we should just get right in it. I have a fan going. I hope that's not too distracting. Um, Excuse me. I have a dog. Excuse me, a big dog. And I will try to mute the mic if he should get noisy. The other two times that I recorded, he was so good. So of course, it's gonna get screwed up at some point. There he goes. It's going after the cat, and that'll get him barking, and the cat meowing, and it's so much fun, if you say so. Okay, I have figured out one thing. J on my keyboard gives me a 10-second rewind. J on keyboard gives a 10-second rewind. There is. Let's see if I can do it. I won't do it here. You hear him? Ah. Fun, 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 fun. My life is fun. Can you tell? Uh, like I said, I'll try to mute him if he's closer. So if you hear him in the background, if I'm not saying anything, I'll try to mute him. I'll never get through this if I wait for perfect opportunities. So let me try to get myself organized here. I've got a mouse that belongs to a different unit. Today we're doing Jen McCabe, Cross by Alan Jackson. So let's just get into it. There was a little bit of business before it started today. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. In the other trials, I didn't show anything that wasn't presented to the jury. This time, I don't care. I want you to know the shenanigans that go on behind the scenes. This one was pretty upfront, I think. But still. Brain went away. Come back, brain. Oh, yes, I need to bring it up. I need to bring up. Is that the one I want? I believe so. All right, closed captions are on. Playback speed, no quality. No, is that the one I want? Yes. I'm going to put it on 720 for now, which is better than auto, because I noticed in the last one I did at one point, the video got really itty. And I don't want to put on 1,000 because that can cause quite a drain, if I remember correctly. So we'll put it there. And what am I trying to do? Full screen. And I don't want to be up there. I want to be down here so that you see more of what's going on. Okay, then. So I got to go back to it and get it.
Was now open, you may be seated.
Commonwealth versus Reed. Counsel had asked to see you before the jury came over, Your Honor.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
So what is it you wanted to see me about, Mr. Brennan? I was handed clips 12A and 16.
I think it's 12 and 12A that you should have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 12 from yesterday. You have 12 from yesterday, 12As in addition. This is regarding the evidentiary issue of Jen McCabe's phone call to John O'Keefe when she was giving directions and she identified the location by pointing out Bella's mom's house.
Okay.
I believe that those two clips will have statements of the defendant, which will establish the predicate for allowing in that statement by Ms. McCabe. And then I expect to play those clips after Ms. McCabe's testimony concludes.
All right. What do you?
In case you don't know, he's got all these clips of different, if this is one of the clips he's talking about, of different interviews that Karen Reed has done with different outlets, you know, television stations, different things. And he's using those as a substitute for Karen to be testifying, basically, is what he's doing. And it's shitty, it's itty as far as I'm concerned. Because nobody was listening to her for the longest time. The persecution has kept throwing things at her that cost her money, bankrupting her. She sold her house. Did she sell her car? I don't know if she could sell her car, because I think that's still in custody. But she sold her 401k, I think. I mean, she sold everything that she had, and she's still $5 million in debt. So I will be adding a link in the box below, whatever the heck it's called, for her defense fund. And if you have an extra $5 or $10, I'm going to put in $10 for Crash Daddy's 10th anniversary that he had to give up celebration with his wife so that he could do this thing that they're compiling the information for the report. Anyway, if you feel so inclined, the link will be down below. I swiped it off of Attorney Melanie Little's page. Full disclosure. Okay, let's go ahead and do this, and I'll mute my microphone.
You say, Mr. Jackson?
That does not cure the hearsay aspect. I understand Mr. Brennan's argument about the relevance to this case of what Ms. Reed said and her statements. That's obviously, this was a admission of party opponent and defendant's statement. That does not do anything to cure the hearsay that was being asked or requested by this witness to address the statements that were sought yesterday. Hearsay is hearsay. If you want to get the clips in and do so, I would hope the connection to that, as long as they were in context, and if they pass the relevancy test, but it doesn't cure the hearsay issue.
So Ms. McCabe testified, my notes for whatever it's worth said, at the end of the day, one of the things she testified to was the defendant on the morning when they were driving over to Fairview saying, could John be cheating on her? Could he be with Bella's mom?
Yes.
So that's in evidence. You want more than that? What do you expect the testimony to be?
I expect if allowed to testify, Mrs. McCabe would testify that she had a phone call with John O'Keefe before John O'Keefe and the defendant arrived at Fairview. And John O'Keefe and the defendant were lost. And in giving directions, she offered to John O'Keefe, which was heard by the defendant, the house is near Bella's mom's house. That is evidence of motive.
All right, just that she said, yeah, I'm going to allow that.
I don't have a problem with that. Yesterday, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought Mr. Brennan was trying to get in the nature of the relationship between Bella and John, which would be hearsay. I have no problem with this offer of proof.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than yesterday.
Okay.
All right. And I understand the loop you'll make eventually, but this is all you intend to get through Ms. McCabe now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I don't think from what I heard, she knows of that relationship at that time.
Okay.
So I don't think I should ask that.
Okay.
Just that she was giving directions and.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. And then those clips can come in.
Great, fantastic, thank you.
All right. So we'll bring the jurors over.
The only thing I would ask is so it's not be played with Ms. McCabe on the stand.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. Let's bring the jurors over. Do you need me to take a recess? Okay.
Line up for everyone.
Why don't, yes, yes.
You are
Of the Norfolk Superior Court and for the country of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
All right. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. Good morning. We appreciate you being prompt and ready to go this morning. There was something I needed to discuss with the lawyers to help streamline the evidence that'll be presented to you today. So I appreciate your patience. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow my instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? No. Everyone said no or shook their heads. Thank you very much. Could we have Ms. McCabe back, please?
I was muted and I said, when they said, God save the Commonwealth, somebody needs to save it. It's bad. Hopefully he'll lay down and go to sleep. That's what he's being the big guy.
Mr. Kidd, I'll remind you, you're still under oath. Thank you.
May I proceed?
Good morning, Ms. McCabe.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before you take us back to Fairview Road, I want to ask you a couple of questions about John's house at Meadows. Are you familiar with his house?
Yes,
Have you seen the front of his house before?
yes, I have.
Are you familiar with his driveway?
Yes,
I was just going to do the cross because my blood pressure can't handle Brennan. It's worse than when it couldn't handle Lally. Well, since I have all day, basically, I have more time today. I'm going to go ahead and play the whole thing. Have fun.
Are you familiar with whether there's any surveillance system at Mr. O'Keefe's house?
yes,
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. McCabe, I'm showing you what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6. Do you recognize that photo?
yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's John O'Keefe's house.
Could we provide Exhibit 6 for the jury, please? On that screen, is that Mr. O'Keefe's home?
Yes,
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 8. Do you recognize that?
yes.
And what is it?
That is the side of Mr. O'Keefe's house, the two garage doors.
Is there any indication of surveillance?
Looks, is this a Ring camera right here? Looks,
that what John O'Keefe's side of his house looks like?
Yes,
I want to show you Exhibit 10. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
yes.
What is it?
It is the driveway at John O'Keefe's.
You see a car to the left?
Yes,
Do you know whose car that is?
yes, that's Miss Reed's.
Is that where you left it the night before? Those early morning hours when you drove to Mr. O'Keefe's house?
Yes,
I want to show you it's been marked as Exhibit 11. You recognize what's in that photo?
yes.
Okay. There's a couple people out there who have presented that this corner of the car has been manipulated to make it look like there's no red. This is a blur mark. This is a blur mark. Part of this is white because see here, there's a little bit of white for the brake light, I think. See this part? Which should be a little bit of this. But the rest of it has been messed with. And more items have been messed with. This photo is more yellow than the last trial photo, and even then it was messed with. They're slimy. They're all slimy. That's the only word I can come up with. They are manufacturing evidence instead of presenting the truth. Her taillight. I wonder when this was taken. This might have been taken when she was at the hospital and they had done a wellness check on the kids who weren't even home. And that's when this picture was taken. I think. Don't hold me to it. But they shouldn't even have been there. There would have been a cracked taillight, not a missing one at all. I don't even remember the name of the other a couple of the ones that have, I meant to write it down and I didn't. So if I get to it, I will, and I'll share a link to those. But this is fake. They have falsified a hell of a lot of information. And I pray it gets revealed.
It's Miss Reed's vehicle.
Is that the vehicle that Ms. Reed showed you with the broken, missing taillight that morning?
Yes, it is.
You mentioned earlier in the night, you spoke to John O'Keefe when you called him or he called you about directions to Fairview Road.
Yes,
And you also shared that you had a phone conversation offering directions.
yes, I did.
Did you tell John that the house at Fairview was near Bella's mom's house?
Leading.
Sustained is to form, Mr. Brennan.
Yeah, leading.
Okay.
Ah,
What did
okay.
you tell John as far as directions to Fairview? How did you mark it for him?
I told him to go by, past Bella's house, the Bella's Street, and then to follow it down to the end.
Now I want you to take us back where we were yesterday when we left off. You had brought us to Fairview Road. You had found John.
Yes,
You shared with us that you were trying chest compressions. Before the chest compressions, did you make a phone call?
I called 911.
I'd like to move to introduce a copy of that 911 call.
Okay. Do you have something physically to, thank you,
Ms. McLaughlin does.
thank you,
You could barely understand it.
With,
thank you.
And it
with
was
the court's
speeded up.
permission, I'd like to play Exhibit 45.
Yes.
There's a belief it was speeded up to make her sound more instead of as laid back as she was. You judge.
Yes, I need someone to come to third floor, third floor, Fairview Road, in that, the Vivian passed out in the snow.
You can't hold up, but you can't let you go. You can't get to know, okay?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
It's at the house, let's get on.
I'm going to try something. First, I'm going to use my nifty little thingy. And then when we get to that, I'm going to slow it down and see if you can hear it better.
Thank you.
With,
Thank you.
with the court's permission, I'd like to play Exhibit 45.
Yes.
No, just scroll up on your
Yes, I need someone to come to third floor, third floor, Fairview Road, in that, the Vivian passed out in the snow.
You can't hold up, but you can't let you go. You can't get to know.
Passed out in the snow.
You can't hold up, but you can't let you go. You can't get to know, okay?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
It's at the house, let's get on.
I just keep doing, like, you guys are very insecure, okay?
I'm a trick set on, just a tip.
Okay. I will.
I can't understand anything.
I don't keep doing it.
911, what's your emergency?
Someone to come immediately to third floor, Fairview Road, Camden, Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
In the snow, turn the wall.
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow. Her best friend. There's a guy unresponsive in the snow. Do you get what I'm presenting here? There's a guy unresponsive in the snow. Not, can you send someone out here right now? My best friend, we found him in the snow. He's unresponsive. We don't know what's going on. Wouldn't that be closer to how it would be?
Yes, third floor, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up behind it.
Okay, 34 Fairview.
Third floor, Fairview, Camden, Mass, yes.
911, that's your older, where's your emergency? Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry, can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Houston?
34 Fairview.
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
There's a man unresponsive in the snow. A man. Now, we found my best friend unresponsive in the snow. Of course, these are the same people that called a dog they've had for 7 years. Her sister and brother-in-law called it It. Called their dog of 7 years It.
Okay, well,
He's got it back here, okay?
okay, what's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
Okay.
We just flipped him over.
And who's that in the background? Is that someone related?
Girlfriend,
Who's that in the background? That's his girlfriend. His name is John
Okay,
O'Keefe.
how old is he?
John is 46 years old.
He's 46.
46, how long has he been outside?
I don't know.
How long has he been outside? I don't know. I know you can read the captions as well as I can.
I don't know. He got out of the car and
Is he breathing?
He got out of the car According to them, he never got out of the car and approached the house, but she's saying he got out of the car
A couple of hours.
and it could have been a couple of hours, because now they're saying that he got out of the car and got run over by Karen because she was in a fit of rage because of the mention of Bella's house.
I don't,
Can you hear the person screaming in the background? I'll give you 2 guesses as to who it is. I'll give you 3 guesses as to why she's screaming in the background. I'll give you 6 guesses as to why you don't hear a dog barking in the house because of the noise. You don't see lights coming on in the house because of the noise. You don't see the owners of the house coming out because of the noise. They either all take sleeping pills at night, including the dog, or they'd already gotten rid of the dog, sent it out of the house with their daughter, and they're just hiding out like the scum they are and not facing up to what they did. They're hiding out, pretending like they don't hear a thing. I don't hear a thing. The guy on the other end of the phone could hear it loud and clear. Who's that screaming in the background? It's ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. Now I want you to watch as Jennifer McCabe tries to bring forth the emotions and the tears of the situation, but she doesn't quite make it.
I don't know if you remember 2 women trying to into the heat and they're hysterical. Okay.
2 women trying to provide heat and hysterical is the noise in the background.
Can you just try asking? I know it's tough, but we gotta get the side and go and then just get it on.
Okay. Is breathing either? It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay, do they know how to do CPR?
It doesn't seem to be breathing. It? Don't we mean he?
And go and then just get it on.
Is breathing either? It doesn't seem to be breathing.
It doesn't seem to
Okay,
be
do they know how to
breathing.
do CPR? Do they want to test it?
No, I guess he's gone.
Okay, they don't feel comfortable doing so.
No, I think he's passed away.
I think he's passed away. That's what she's hoping.
Alright, we have the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's finding CPR, then I'll hang up with you and, if anything changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys upside?
I know, Mom, all the answers. I know, honey, I know. Kelly, you gotta get off of me. Kelly, you gotta get off of him.
You know if there's any, alcohol or drugs involved?
He
They're not drinking.
But I'm talking hours about maybe, and I
Okay, is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe in his head, is his head out?
yes, possibly, I think he's bleeding in the face.
Okay, bleeding from the face, alright.
Yes.
And how big the pool of blood is, if there is any?
So it's coming out of the nose, and one of the ones that you're doing CPR.
Okay, one of them is doing CPR?
Yes. They're both working on him.
Alright, if you want CPR, and just let me, just give us a call back, we tell us response, right, but we're on the way.
Okay, thank you.
there were a lot of people that were upset at the end of this call because he hangs up. The dispatcher hangs up. And they said, this isn't, no, normally they stay on the line until the emergency people get there. So I don't know why he felt comfortable, because he says, you know, if he comes awake, well, then call us back. You know, if everything resolves, call us back. It is a bit weird. Massachusetts does things in a very strange way.
Mr. McCabe, describe your mental state when you were speaking to 911.
Shock and horror.
I guess the best way to describe it was I was in shock. My heart was racing. I was trying to be as helpful as I could and get the information to the most important information out as quick as I could to the 911 operators. But also the scene there with Karen and Kerry was a bit chaotic between the two of them. So I was just trying my best to be as calm as I could, to get help there as fast as I could, and to answer their questions the best that I could.
Before you told the 911 operator John O'Keefe's name and his age, you said there's a man in the snow. Do you know why you chose those words?
I think I just wanted to get out the most specific details. So a man in the snow versus, you know, John O'Keefe and into a story. I think I just was get the details
The way
to
she
them
said
as
it
fast
was a
as
story.
possible, to get help there to him as fast as possible.
When you told the 911 operator that your friend John O'Keefe was the person lying in the snow, how did you know his age?
We used to joke because he was a couple months older than me. So I would, you know, say, oh, you're older than me. It was a silly little thing between friends.
When you called the 911 operator, had Kerry and the defendant already been around or near John?
Yes.
Do you know if they had begun trying CPR before you called 911?
I'm not sure if they had, because Karen had straddled him and was lifted her shirt, was warming him up. And then Kerry was yelling at her to get off. And I think when Kerry got the blankets and was trying to put him under John, I think as she started to move him and wipe him, blood started to come out. And then Karen was afraid that he was going to choke on his blood and wanted to move him on his side. But then Kerry was yelling at her, we can't move him. And this was kind of all going on while I was talking to 911.
You described what you saw, and you said at some point he was bleeding from the face area. Was that before or after he was moved?
After.
Before he was moved, did you see any active bleeding?
No.
After you called 911, what do you do next?
I think I called my sister and she didn't answer. And then as I think I called her as I was walking over to John and she didn't answer. And then I immediately got down on the ground and Kerry Roberts asked me to take over.
How long did you try to help John for?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
According to Kerry's testimony, yes, she told Karen to get off, and they switched places, and Kerry was doing CPR, and Karen was doing mouth to mouth, and they'd been doing it for a while. And it was after they'd been doing it for a while that Carrie asked Jen to take over the CPR because her knees, her legs were freezing.
How long were you and the defendant and Miss Roberts there before someone else arrived?
Police officer was the first to arrive. In the moments, it seemed like a long time, but I think it was fairly quick that they arrived.
Any point during the time when you tried to help Mr. O'Keefe and the first police officer arrived, at any point did you see any signs of life from Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
When the police officer first arrived, do you remember what happened next?
I remember it was very chaotic, but there was talk about a spotlight. And I remember, I think I got up and ran to kind of wave the, to get the police officer's attention so he could see where we were.
And then what happens?
The police officer, not sure specific, I do remember him asking about John. I think he said, is he a drug user? He was just asking some basic questions.
And what's the environment? What's going on around you?
Karen's just running around crazy, like just yelling, screaming, kind of like a ping pong.
So she got up from doing CPR to run and flag down the light. Is something out of order here? Because my understanding was that Carrie kept CPR, or they kept up doing CPR until the ambulance got there and people took over. So she just jumped up and waved to get that searchlight down.
What are you trying to do?
I was just trying to talk to the officer. I guess I just went into this like type of mode of, all right, I have to just talk to him, get the information out, figure out like how we can best help John and like what happened to him and try to save him ultimately.
And what happens next?
More officers begin to come, fire and EMT. So the scene becomes active with a lot of different presence.
And a lot of noise and no lights coming on, no dog barking from inside, and no homeowners showing up.
You know, John, I think they lift John onto a board at one point. The officers are asking us questions. Karen's kind of coming over, talking to the questions, and then kind of just running away. And then she just runs back over. She's doing a lot of screaming, a lot of repetitive.
Really? Really? The woman wakes up and the guy she loves is not home, would never leave his adopted daughter, his niece, unattended. This wasn't like John. Something horrible has happened. She's in a panic. Then she finds out she had a reason to be in a panic. And she can't understand what's going on. Why do you think she was running around and screaming? I don't comprehend. I don't understand this. What happened? Why? How? All of this is going through her, but cool, calm, and collected. Jen has it all under control. So what if my BFF is lying there dying in the snow? Or I don't think it's ever been said if there was still a heartbeat or a pulse or anything. I don't know if it's ever been said. But I'm tired of them besmirching Karen because she couldn't understand what was going on. This was foreign to her. This was totally unacceptable to her. She could not comprehend this. Yes, she was in a panic. She was frantic. It's like, is he dead? Wake him up. Can he come up? Can he wake up? Can you fix him?
Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? You know, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Kerry, I think, Kerry's off kind of making phone calls, I believe, to John's family.
Do you know what time the first responders lifted John from the ground and put him on that bed?
I don't know a time, but it was
Okay, that's the only question.
okay.
You heard your 911 call. Do you know the time of that 911 call?
Not off the top of my head, no.
At some point, did you talk to a number of different people at the scene?
Yes.
And who were you talking to?
The first officer was Officer Saraf. I know I spoke with him. I spoke with an Officer Lank, an Officer Good. There were other officers. I don't remember their name.
Great recall for someone who's in a panic. She knows all these people. She made sure she talked to everybody to get the story out. The story. Get my drift?
Names. There were EMTs. I don't remember their names either.
You have lived in this area for a long time,
Yes.
active in the community.
Yes.
Did you know Sergeant Good from before that night?
I knew of him. I didn't know him personally.
Did you know Detective Lank?
Yes, I knew him.
How did you know him?
We were friendly.
Your children ever associate with each other?
Not until recently.
After you had a chance to speak to some of the officers, did you move around at all yourself?
Yes, I kind of, the officers would talk to us here and then a little bit over to the side. I tried to comfort Miss Reed. At one point, Miss Reed was very upset. And one of the officers thought it would be best if maybe she went and just sat in one of the cruisers for a little bit because she was just doing a lot of screaming and yelling. And I think they were just trying to, get, work on John and make the scene a little less chaotic. So I went into the back of the car with her, and Kerry Roberts came over. And then we all were just sat in the back of Karen and I kind of were scrunched and sitting in the back, and Kerry was at the door of the cruiser.
Why did you get in the car with the defendant?
She was crying. She asked me to get in. We held hands. We prayed. She did have blood on her hands, and she said, could I have gotten my period? Who's going to take care of the kids? She just kind of was all over the place.
Her mind was racing.
And then at one point, we saw them moving John towards the ambulance. And at that point, Miss Reed started yelling to Miss Roberts, go check on him. Are they working on him? Is he dead? Is he dead? And at that point, myself and Miss Reed got out of the car, and she started yelling and pulling on me to Google hypothermia and Google how long it takes for somebody, to die in the cold.
BS.
When the
BS.
defendant first asked you to Google an
BS.
inquiry about hypothermia, were you still inside the police cruiser or were you outside?
Outside.
BS.
What was the weather? I know it's an obvious question, but how cold was it?
It was very cold, windy. The snow was blowing. As I stated, I have multiple sclerosis. So when I'm out in either extremely hot or cold temperatures, I lose the feeling and sensation in my fingers, which obviously made the Googling very hard for me to do because of my, motor skills.
Yeah.
So when you were outside of the car with the defendant and she had asked you to do a search regarding hypothermia, did you try to do that?
Yes, I did.
Do you know the exact time from your memory? Not from reading or learning, but from your memory. Do you
2:27
remember the exact
a.m.
time you did that?
No.
Was it after the police came that morning?
No.
Yes.
No.
Had you ever attempted to search about hypothermia any time before that moment, that morning,
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
or that day,
no,
that
Yes.
week?
no.
Yes.
Was this the first time that morning after the defendant asked you to search that you searched that phrase?
No.
Yes, it was.
No.
And did you complete your search and get a result?
So I don't know what came up because I think as I entered it, I think I misspelled things. And so then I think I tried a second search. And again, I don't think I even paid attention to what came up because we were already on to the next thing. Karen was already moving and screaming about, the next thing to Kerry. Are they working on him? Is he dead?
Did the defendant move somewhere from the point when she first asked you to try to Google about hypothermia to something else?
She was next to me and then I think she took off. Like she kept kind of running off.
And what did you do?
I believe
Sat
as
down,
they were
had a
putting, I think
cigarette.
I stood there, I believe as they were putting John into the ambulance, I went back kind of to the original spot where we had been talking to the police. And at that point, a new officer might have come because I remember talking to multiple officers there.
At some point, did you go back towards the area of Miss Roberts' car?
Yes, that's where I'm referring to. Sorry.
At some point, were you with the defendant when she spoke to an officer and a first responder?
Yes.
Do you remember if the first responder was a man or a woman?
I remember there was a woman right next to us. Yes.
Remember if that was before or after the defendant asked you to search about hypothermia?
I'd be guessing if I then don't.
Don't guess.
Mhm.
When the defendant was speaking to the first responder, the woman, were you near?
Yes.
Did you hear or do you remember the defendant saying anything to the first responder?
Yes.
What did she say?
She told the first responder, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
No, she didn't.
When she told the first responder, I hit him, how did you react?
I was like startled, kind of like, what are you saying? What are you talking about?
Did you say anything to the defendant?
I think after the second or third time she was saying it, I was like, Karen, like, what are you saying?
Why were you trying to interrupt her?
Because I thought she was just talking crazy. And I'm saying, why is she saying she hit him?
She was talking
Were
crazy.
you trying to look out for her?
She was out of her mind.
Yeah.
Sustain. I'll strike it. You can ask it differently.
Oh, what do you know?
What was your motivation for trying
Something.
to interrupt the defendant making the statements?
I missed
I'll
it.
strike it. You can ask it differently.
She's saying she hit him.
Were you trying to look out for her?
Yeah.
Sustain. I'll strike it. You can ask it differently.
What was your motivation for trying to interrupt the defendant making the statements to the first responder?
Karen was hysterical, irrational, kind of.
I'll move on.
Oh, okay. I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please.
Sidebar. Now, if I knew the right button to push, we'd move it forward. Nope, that's not it. Besides, I'm in the wrong thing. We will try. J's that. Ooh, found it. Yay. Sarge, hush. Oh.
Yeah. After you made the search at the defendant's request for an inquiry regarding hypothermia, did you have a chance to speak to the officers further?
We need to be quiet.
Yes.
Did they ask you to do anything or go anywhere?
Yes. Officer Lank asked me to go into my sister's house and to wake them up.
And your sister's name again?
My sister, Nicole.
And that is the house you were in the night before?
Yes.
And after you spoke to the officer, they requested you go in to speak to your sister, did you?
Yes.
Was there any directive on what you should speak to your sister about?
No.
After the officers asked you to go into the house, did you?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember what door you went through?
Yes, I went through the front door.
Was the door locked?
Yes.
How did you get in?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said, was it unlocked?
No, I asked if it was locked.
Oh, sorry. It was unlocked.
As you're approaching the house, were there any lights on?
Now, does that seem reasonable to you? 6 o'clock in the morning, the door is unlocked. There's a blizzard going on. The door is unlocked. It would seem more reasonable to me that being her sister lived there, she might have had a key to the residence and she used her key. But no, the story is the door was unlocked. Does that seem reasonable to you? Most people that I know lock their doors at night when they go to bed. Am I just paranoid or what?
No.
Was it dark?
Yes.
Any sign of any movement inside the house before you went in?
No.
Take us through what's on.
Yes.
How did you get in?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said, was it unlocked?
No, I asked if it was locked.
Oh, sorry. It was unlocked.
As you're approaching the house, were there any lights on?
No.
Was it dark?
Yes.
Any sign of any movement inside the house before you went in?
No.
Take us through walking through the front door. What happens?
So I went in the front door. I opened the door. I
Ducked because there was this big German Shepherd running at me. Is that what happened next? Intruder.
walked up the stairs.
Okay. Was it when you walked up the stairs?
Into their hallway, and then I think I knocked on their door.
Oh, yeah. So did you hear the dog respond to the knock on the bedroom door?
Bedroom door?
Their bedroom door. And then I opened the door. I went in.
And then ducked because this big German Shepherd came leaping at me because he was startled? No, that's not what happened.
And I walked over to the bed and I was like, Brian, Nicole, Chloe.
Brian, Nicole, Chloe. Does something seem off about this story to you? Do you hear my dog? Do you think he's part German Shepherd? He's Husky German Shepherd. And he's learned how to talk. Any dog that I've had, if there was an unusual sound, they would be barking like stuff going on outside the door that they know isn't normal. She's full of it.
Nicole, because I was in a position where I felt like the world was going on around me, so much was happening, but I also was aware that I was just about to wake up two people that are sound asleep, and they're going to see me standing over their bed and be startled, wondering, what am I doing here?
So what happens?
So it took a minute or two, and then Brian woke up and he immediately was like startled and was like, Jennifer, what's going on? What are you doing? And then I believe I tried the best I could to say what was going on. I think I said, we found John.
You don't need to describe
Okay.
again, but I want to know.
I want to know the truth, and this is not the truth. This was all pre-planned. She texted or made a couple like 4 or 5 second phone calls to her sister. We're out here. They're coming in. Something. I don't remember exactly what it was. That was the gist of it. There was a heads up. We're going to be coming in any second. This is so unfair. And this is just not right. Oops, wrong button.
Their reaction and your interaction with your sister and Brian Albert.
They woke up startled and confused.
Did you have a conversation with them?
Yes.
How long was that conversation?
Brief. They got up, got dressed. I spoke to them.
And where did you go and where did they go?
Then all three of us went down the stairs.
The upstairs to the downstairs?
Upstairs to downstairs,
And
yes.
upstairs is the second level, is downstairs the first level?
Yes.
As you come down the stairs, can you see the front door?
Yes.
Is there anybody in the house at that point?
I saw Officer Lank.
In the house?
Yes.
Do you know if he had been invited in?
I have no idea.
When you came down the stairs and saw Officer Lank, where was your sister and Brian Albert?
And where was Chloe? Chloe, he doesn't like strangers. Where was Chloe? Chloe was long gone. Why?
They were walking with me down the stairs.
And did you see whether or not the officer spoke with your sister and your brother?
He did.
Brother-in-law? I'm sorry.
He did. He did. Yes.
Were you there during that conversation?
No.
How long was that conversation? Do you know?
Not sure.
Where did you go when the officer was speaking to your sister and your brother-in-law inside their home?
I was standing at the front doorway, and then my husband Matt had just arrived.
What happened next?
I started talking to Matt, and almost immediately Officer Lang came, got Matt, and asked if he could talk to him outside.
At this point, I want to go back and show you some video. Have you seen video in this case before?
Yes.
I'd like to ask the court's permission to display Exhibit 4, and I would like to walk through some of the video.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if you kindly put on Exhibit 4.
I got to go
I'd
talk
like
to
to
my
start
dog.
at 6:09:57. Ms. Gilman, if you can take us to the arrival at Fairview. Could you stop there, please? Ms. McCabe, do you recognize this scene?
Yes.
Is that morning?
Yes.
The car directly in front of this dash cam, do you know whose vehicle that is?
Kerry Roberts.
On the left, we see somebody with a blue parka or jacket. Do you know who that is?
I believe that's me.
Can you continue to play, please? Can you stop there, please? Does that fairly depict your first interaction with law enforcement?
Yes.
Do you see the flagpole in that video?
Yes.
And is that the area where you found John?
Yes.
I'd like to move forward in the video if we can move forward to 6:14:45, please. Could you stop there? Can you identify people on that video from right to left, if you can?
I don't know the officer. That's myself. I believe behind me, that's Miss Reed.
And this is about, let me get the time correctly. 6:14:47. And do you know where John is at this point?
Are they lifting him to the left?
Could you continue, please, Ms. Gilman? Could you stop there? The person all the way to the left near the flagpole. Do you know who that is?
I believe Carrie Roberts.
And is that the area where John was found?
Yes.
And that's at 6:15 a.m.? If you don't know, that's okay. Do you know what Ms. Roberts was doing at 6:15 a.m.?
My guess is
I
that
don't want you to guess. Just if you know.
I don't know.
Okay. Now, you're over to the right. Is that you?
Yes.
Continue, please. Is that Carrie on the left?
Yes.
Stop, please. On the right, do you see yourself?
Yes.
And which person are you?
I'm the one next to the one with the fluorescent yellow.
Is your back to us?
Yes.
To the right in yellow. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Continue, please. Continue. Stop, please. Do you see the defendant move from the right to the left?
Yes.
Do you see the yellow jacket?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not that's the woman first responder?
I believe so. Yes.
Do you know why the officer moved the defendant over to from right to left?
I don't.
Okay, continue, please. Stop. At that part, is there a conversation between the defendant and the first responder?
Yes.
Are you listening?
Yes.
Continue. Stop. Do you see the officer that was with you in the group?
Yes.
Do you see him now turned away from the group speaking to somebody else?
I do.
Continue, please. Thank you. If you could move ahead to 6:19, please. Is that you, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
I hated these scenes in the previous trial. It is so hard to see anything. And they've done something to the film. This is a different look. And you still can't see anything.
Is that Miss Roberts?
Yes.
Stop for a moment. Do you know at which point you went to the officer's car and sat in the back with Miss Reed?
I believe it's right after this.
Can you continue, please?
I plan on breaking this into 2 segments, morning and afternoon. Good stuff comes this afternoon, in the afternoon. The even better stuff comes Friday. In my humble, biased opinion. Do we really need to see all this? This could have been streamlined, people. They're just wasting time. They could have fast forwarded to the next interesting piece. At some point, you're going to see Carrie walk across here into the house. Not Carrie, Jen. Tired of seeing the back of people. Blurs and smears and innuendos. That's the name of this.
Is that Miss Roberts?
Yes.
She had the fur around her hood.
Stop, please. Was it before or after that moment that you sat with the defendant and Miss Roberts stood outside the car and you prayed?
I'm not exactly sure from
Okay.
that video.
That's fine. If we could move forward to 6:23:40, please.
He must have taken my advice.
At this time, are you still with the defendant behind this car in some spot?
Yes, I am.
Behind the car. So why show this? So you can see the officer walking around back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Is it during this time, 6:23 and 6:24, you tried to make those searches at the defendant's request?
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is proof. This is proof.
Ms. Gilman, if you can move forward to 6:26:15.
All these people walking around and nobody's going to the door and knocking saying, hey, do you know what happened here? Do you know what's going on? Is anybody walking and knocking on anybody else's door? Why not?
Pause, please. Ms. McCabe, do you see anybody returning to Ms. Roberts' car in that area?
Yes.
And who did you see?
I saw myself and I'm standing outside of the car speaking to Officer Lank. I saw Carrie go up and near her car. I'm not sure if she went into it. And I saw someone walk Miss Reed into the car.
Is it around this time you have a conversation with Mr. Lank?
Yes.
And what does he tell you again around this time?
He's at this point, I think, asking me questions about what had happened. And then soon after, he asks me to go into my sister's house.
Ms. Gilman, if you can fast forward to 6:34:15, please.
Pay attention over here. You'll see a dark shadow. This is nearly worthless. There. You'll see her
Stop,
approaching
please.
now.
You described that the house had no lights on. Is that a fair depiction of
Yes.
the view?
Yes.
Do you see a figure walking up the driveway?
You know, they should be fined if there was a flag on that flagpole and it wasn't lit, which would cast this area into some kind of light. That's disrespecting the American flag. If it's out in the elements and at night, it is supposed to be lit. Shows you where the Alberts stand on stuff.
Not on this pause clip, but I did see it. Yes.
Let's play it and see if you can identify.
Yes. I can see myself walking up.
Where are you now?
I'm walking up the path to go up to the stairs into the house.
And this is at the request of Officer Lang?
Yes.
And you described for us you went in and woke up your sister and brother-in-law?
Yes.
Could we move forward to 6:39?
And the dog, but she didn't make a sound. She turned invisible. You couldn't see her or hear her. She's a ninja dog. She's there and then she's not.
Nine, please.
Can we move on, please?
Stop. And do you see something happen with the house at that point?
Yes.
And what happens?
Light went on.
I'll note it's 6:39:08. Thank you, Ms. Gilman.
After everybody left. After Karen stopped screaming. It must have been the
After
silence.
First responders took
that woke 'em
John
up.
and you had gone in your sister's house. What did you do next?
Next, after Officer Lang spoke to my husband, Kerry Roberts, her and I had a conversation. She was going to go pick up John's parents in Braintree. At first, I had told her I would go with her. But then Officer Lang said that one of us had to stay at Fairview to speak to the, I believe it was the state troopers that would be coming.
Did you stay at Fairview?
I did, yes.
What was your mental state at that point?
Again, I was in shock. The best way I can describe it is the feeling of I'm present and everything's going on around me, and I'm just trying to process and make sense of everything.
Did you speak to your sister about what happened?
Yes,
Did you speak to your brother-in-law about what happened?
yes,
And were they giving you any comfort or support?
yes. They were being very comforting and supportive.
As you were waiting at Fairview, did anybody else come to the house?
Well, my husband, Matt, had arrived. A little while later, Julie Albert had arrived. She was dropping something off, and then Brian Sr. called her in.
Is Julie Albert the wife of Chris Albert?
Yes, she is.
And Brian Albert and Chris Albert are brothers.
Correct.
Get out of there.
When she arrived, did you talk to her?
Yes.
Were you in a group? Were you talking to people privately?
No, we were all sitting around the kitchen table.
And why were you talking to everybody?
We were trying to figure out what had happened. They were trying to be supportive, trying to help me.
What was your mood?
I was extremely concerned. I was calling Kerry,
Excuse me.
trying to get updates about John. I was worried about John, his family, about Kaylee.
Okay. again, we're out of order here. I was calling Carrie, but then she says, she testifies she doesn't have Carrie's number and she had to get it from somebody else. And I don't remember if it was Karen or not. So which way is it? Make up your mind.
At that point, did you know whether John was going to live?
I had a very strong, I think deep down I knew that John was gone. But you know, there's, until you hear it, I think there was that little bit of hope maybe.
Did you speak to anybody but Kerry who was not at the home that morning?
I believe I spoke, yeah, Miss Reed.
You had a conversation?
Yes, I spoke to her when she was in the ambulance.
Did you speak to her again later that day?
No, I think I texted her asking her for Carrie's number because I didn't have it.
Did you hear back?
No,
Did you ever speak to Miss Reed again?
no, I've never spoken to her again.
That tells you what kind of friend she is. The man she loved ended up in this condition. No hugs, no comfort, no support for Karen. But Jen gets all the comfort and support because it was traumatic for her. And poor Karen is out of her mind. Friends like that, you don't need enemies. Oh, wait a minute. Got to change the title. She's not a friend. She's the other.
When you were trying to get information from Kerry and you were in Fairview, did anybody else other than the people you've described arrive at Fairview?
Chris Albert, Brian Higgins showed up and Chris Albert.
Did you know Brian Higgins?
I knew him as a friend of Brian's.
Did you see him at the waterfall that night before?
Yes, I did.
And after you arrived at Fairview that night, after leaving the waterfall, was Brian Higgins one of the people there?
Yes.
And did you talk about what had happened in front of Brian Higgins as well?
Yes.
Was there a group discussion?
I wouldn't say discussion. I would just say, like, for instance, someone would ask me a question because everybody this didn't make sense to anybody.
Still doesn't.
No one knew what had happened.
Agreed.
So just move on.
Oh, look at the nasty
And
look
so
she
was
gave
there a
him.
lot of questions about what you saw and heard?
Did you see the nasty
Yes.
look she gave?
You
Jack?
mentioned earlier that you felt like you were in a state of shock. Did you feel like you were still
Wait a
in
minute,
that
wait a minute,
state,
wait a
or
minute.
were things changing mentally? You saw and heard?
Happened.
See that
Agreed.
look? How dare you interrupt me?
And so was there?
No
How
one
dare you.
knew what had happened.
Agreed.
So just move on.
And so was there a lot of questions about what you saw and heard?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that you felt like you were in a state of shock. Did you feel like you were still in that state, or were things changing mentally?
Little by little, as I sat there, I started things started coming back to me that had been said to me earlier.
Did something significant come back to you about what happened earlier, or what you heard?
Yes.
And
Pay
what is that?
attention.
When Miss Reed stated to myself and the female, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Yes.
And did anything else over the course of that morning come back to you about that moment?
Throughout when I was still at Fairview or throughout the day?
Still at Fairview.
I believe that was maybe the main thing. I can't be sure what memories came back.
When you remembered the defendant's statements to the first responder, did you decide to do something with that information?
Yes, Officer Lang had said if I, remembered anything or needed anything before the state, the state police came to give him a call.
Did you?
I did, yes.
And you knew Officer Lang?
I did, yes.
Were you comfortable calling him?
Yes, I was.
Did you tell him the information that you had remembered?
I just asked him to come back to Fairview.
Did he?
He did, yes.
When he came back, did you speak to him?
Yes, I did.
Were you with the group, or were you alone?
No, I was with the group.
And did you tell him what you had remembered?
I did, yes.
How long did you stay at Fairview for?
So then the whole group heard you tell him that Karen said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. But nobody else has said anything about her saying that statement. It's not in any of the reports. She is setting him up. She is setting her up. The whole night, could I have hit him? Because the last time she saw him, that's where she was. It wasn't making any sense to her. Could it have been me? Could I have done this? She had no clue. Jennifer McCabe is bearing false witness. And the Bible says they get theirs.
I believe somewhere between 11:30. I'm being approximate with my times. Officer Proctor called me from the state police.
Do you know how he got your number?
No.
Did you have a discussion with him?
He said he would like to come by and question me. And I'm not sure if he said at your house or if I said I need to go home because I had 4 kids at home that was still sleeping. And
At 10 o'clock in the morning.
I knew that I had to go home to them and eventually break this, news to them and comfort them. And I knew that was going to be a whole nother situation to deal with.
Did you speak to him on the phone before you went home or after?
A quick phone call. I'll see you at my house.
At that point, did you share any information with him?
No, not on the phone.
Did you return home?
I did, yes.
Do you remember about what time that was?
I'm going to say 11:30 or after.
that a-
Approximate.
General?
General, yeah.
Did
What-
you still have to wake your kids up at 11:30? Or did you call them, make sure they were okay, let them know where you were, and you'd be home as soon as possible? Because I think 2 out of 4 of them were teenagers who were old enough. You might not have told them the whole story, but just said, hang in there. I'll be home as soon as I can. So much BS going on.
When you got back home, did you have a meeting or speak with Mr. Proctor?
I did, yes.
Was it a phone call or an in-person conversation?
He came into my house with Officer Buchanan.
Was that before or after you took the jammies off of your girls and fed them their breakfast and put them on the clothes they were going to wear that day? Come on. Be real.
Okay, him and Trooper Buchanan came in?
Yes.
Was there anybody else at your home?
My husband was home and my brother-in-law, Brian Albert, came over.
Did you speak to them?
Yes.
Did you tell them any additional information at that?
Because Brian Albert is always coming over. He's always right in the middle of things. Because he's got to know what's going on.
At that point?
The troopers or,
The troopers.
yes,
Why wasn't he at his own home, Brian Albert, knocking on the neighbors' doors, finding out if anybody had ring footage of what happened, how John O'Keefe got into that situation in the front of his yard? Why wasn't he out there pounding the pavement and knocking on doors to find out what happened? Oh, that's right, because he already knew how it all happened.
I know I had said what Karen had said to me, and then she had said, I hit him. Could I have hit him? I told them how she showed up at my house. I just basically gave them the events of that morning.
At that point, did you mention anything about the defendant's broken taillight?
At that conversation, no.
Did they leave?
They did leave, yes.
At some point, did they reach out to you again, or did you reach out to them?
At some point, I had another conversation with them a few hours later. I'm not I'm not sure if they called me or if I called them.
Do you know what generally the content of that conversation was?
Yes, I had remembered that Karen had told me about her taillight.
As you're processing that morning,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You just remembered. But one of the statements last time was that when they went, before they went over and found John, they went back to John's house. And supposedly Karen pointed out the taillight and showed them it. So that's not the story anymore? I'm confused.
are you trying to think and recreate the event? Or,
Told me about her taillight.
as you're processing that morning, are you trying to think and recreate the event, or are you trying to put it out of your mind?
I couldn't get it out of my mind.
Excuse me.
While you were at home, did you receive any updates from anybody, Kerry Roberts or anybody, about John?
Yes, when I was still at the Alberts, Kerry had given me word that John had passed. Then once I got home, I know different friends who were starting to hear.
Without saying that, without content, were you receiving content?
You see the nasty look she gave because there was no, how dare you interrupt my conversation? How dare you interrupt my story? I don't know if I should keep continuing or not. But that's her attitude, is how dare he speak when I'm speaking. Watch.
Then once I got home, I know different friends who were starting to hear.
Without
Did
saying
you
that,
see that?
without content, were you receiving contacts, calls, text
Yes.
messages from other people?
Yes,
And were you reaching back out to other people?
some, yes.
At some point, did you go over to Meadows Road?
On Sunday, I did, yes.
Was Sunday the next day?
Yes, it was.
Why did you go over to Meadows?
Kerry and I went over with my daughter and her daughter to see the family and to offer support and our sympathy.
You said you and Kerry. How did you get there?
Kerry picked me up.
Prior to that evening, you and Kerry, you described, weren't friends or familiar.
Correct.
Were things changing?
Yes, rapidly.
Because now they were cohorts. Now they were cohorts. Not sure if Kerry knew it at the time, but Jen was in full manipulation mode and pulling in and manipulating and organizing and weaving her web of deception.
When she picked you up, who else did she pick up with you?
My daughter, who is Kaylee's friend.
And was anybody else, or any of Miss Roberts' family in the car?
Yes, her daughter was in the car as well.
And her
So it was you,
son.
Miss Roberts, and your two daughters?
Yes.
You said you went to Meadows.
Somebody remembered Carrie saying her son was in the car as well. Not her son. Carrie's son and daughter were in the car as well. Don't know. Don't remember.
Yes.
Why did you go there?
To offer our condolences, sympathy, support, to be with the family. I love them.
Were they staying at Meadows?
They were at Meadows, yes.
When you went there that next day, can you describe the traffic and the people that were?
And did they have to take their shoes off? Oh, no, that's right. Since John wasn't around anymore, nobody had to do that anymore.
There?
There was a house full of family, friends, coworkers, loved ones. The car repairman,
The car repairman. I hope somebody follows up on that. The car repairman. It wasn't for Karen's car, the Lexus. because she had it with her over at her parents' house by now, I think. Yeah, this is Sunday. So the car repairman, I am presuming, was the one who was going to fix John's Traverse where Carrie's car hit it, to repair that. I'll betcha. But that might have been a slip on her part.
Anyone and everyone.
Did you ever see the defendant?
No.
While
The
you're,
defendant walked in to John's house the evening that all this happened, got her things, and felt she read the room, especially from John's mother, who did not like her. Did not. She does an imitation of her, which is pretty accurate from what I understand. So why would she stay? She wasn't welcome there anymore. But why did you leave him there? When she was told by Karen all that she knew. Well, why did you leave him there? So the finger was already being pointed at Karen. So why would she be there? She just went through a traumatic experience. But of course, it's no more traumatic than what Jen went through.
at the house, did you have it?
Sorry, I'll back it up. She just went through a hell of a traumatic experience. She needed comfort and support herself. And where she could get that was from her parents, who have always been there for her. And that's what she needed. So for a change, she was doing what she needed for herself, because nobody else was going to do it for her.
Chance
Let me back
to
it up.
speak to Miss?
Anyone and everyone.
Did you ever see the defendant?
No.
While you're at the house, did you have a chance to speak to Miss O'Keefe?
Yes, I did.
At some point that day, did you leave the house?
Yes.
Who did you leave with?
Kerry and my daughter stayed to be with Kaylee, and we left with her daughter.
Where did you go?
We were heading home, but then we ended up dropping off her daughter at her friend's house.
Now, who's her daughter?
Ca-
Don't give me a name. Carrie's
yeah.
daughter?
Carrie.
Wait a minute. Let's back that up, because I thought you just said they left Carrie with Kaylee at John's house. Let's see. Okay, it was her daughter that they left with Kaylee.
Kerry and my daughter stayed to be with Kaylee, and we left with her daughter.
Where did you go?
We were heading home, but then we ended up dropping off her daughter at her friend's house.
Okay, again, I'm confused. Of course, it doesn't take much these days. Yes, I did. Carrie and my daughter stayed to be with Kaylee. Okay, so she left with Carrie, and her daughter stayed with Kaylee.
We left with her daughter.
Where did you go?
We were heading home, but then we ended up dropping off her daughter at her friend's house.
Now, who's her daughter?
Ca-
Don't give me a name. Carrie's
yeah.
daughter?
Carrie's daughter, yes.
And was Carrie's daughter friends with any of the Lanks?
Yes, Carrie's daughter's good friends with Mike Lank's daughter.
When Ms. Roberts drove over to Mr. and Mrs. Lank's house, did you meet anybody?
Yes, her daughter, Carrie's daughter, went in the house, and Mrs. Lank came out. Her and Carrie are very good friends, so she came out to offer support and condolences.
Was it still cold outside?
Yes, it was freezing.
When she was offering her support, was she inside or outside of the car?
She jumped into the back seat.
During that time you spent with Officer Lang's wife, did you ever go into the house?
I have a faint memory. I think I went in and used the bathroom at one point.
When you were having a conversation with Mr. Lang's wife, were you talking about what had happened?
Yes, Carrie was just explaining the morning, the phone calls, the scene, things like that.
Were you trying to get any type of inside information or push the investigation in any particular direction?
No, I didn't speak much. It was mostly Carrie and Trish was just being a supportive friend to Carrie.
At some point, did you get together with Ms. Roberts and try to memorialize what you had saw or thought that morning?
Timeline.
Yes.
Call it what it is.
Why did you do that?
Peg had asked Carrie to do a timeline. So Carrie came over and we were sitting down talking about it. And so my sister was there and she said that she would jot it down for us.
That would be Dee Dee, Denise. But they call her Dee Dee, just like they call her JJ, I think.
And so when you got together, it was at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe?
Yes.
When she made that request, did you ask you to do that? Did you question why?
No, she wanted us to do it, so I did it.
Why?
She wanted us to remember and try to jot down everything we remembered so we wouldn't forget.
So I'm going to sustain discretion. There is disregard, that's fine.
Did you speak to officers further in the future?
Because she was guessing. She didn't know for sure because she didn't say, I was told that that's what she wanted us to. All she knew is that's what she wanted them to do. She wasn't given the reason why. She was guessing. That's why there was an objection, because she was guessing. And even if she was told why, it would be hearsay, I think. No, because she was told, if she was told directly, it wouldn't be hearsay. It was a technicality, okay?
Yes.
Can you count how many times you spoke with police or the interviews you had?
There were a lot, or a good amount, I should say.
At some point, did any of the police officers ask if they could take your phone and copy everything on it?
Yes.
Did you have any hesitation about that?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Were you cooperative?
Yes.
Why?
I wanted to help in any way I could.
May I approach?
Yes.
Yeah, except, is it okay if I delete some conversations with my daughters? Right. And that's all she deleted? She's a liar. And you find out later that she actually lied to the FBI.
Handed you a piece of paper. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's my signature.
Do you know what that document is?
Yes, it's the consent form that I signed from my phone.
Like they produce this as an exhibit?
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, we can deal with it sidebar. I have no objection to the identification of it, moving in and exhibit, I do have objection.
Okay, I'll see the temple.
See the temple. Some of these looks that she gives. All right. Forward is this one.
Other people?
Yes.
And have you decided a memorial? After that day when you met with Miss Roberts, and you try to memorialize your memory about what happened, after that date, have you discussed what happened that morning with other people?
Of course.
Yes.
And have you discussed it with police over time?
Yes.
Yes.
have no further questions at this time.
Yay! I want to back that up for a second. Yeah, okay. Notice who's in the gallery in his usual position. Later, you're going to find out he moves. He gets moved. I don't know if the jury complained or somebody complained about something, and he got moved.
Good morning, Ms. McCabe.
Good morning.
When was the last time you spoke with Carrie Roberts before your testimony today?
She called me last night.
What did y'all discuss?
She asked if my daughters were going to be staying home from school today because her daughter would possibly join them.
Did you discuss anything having to do with your testimony?
Not my testimony, no.
Did you discuss anything in that conversation with her prior testimony?
No.
Are you aware that she testified last week?
Yes.
Did you discuss anything after that, after she testified with her about her testimony?
No.
We know that through her testimony that you had a conversation with her the morning that she testified.
Yes.
Right? Did you discuss what you anticipated to be her testimony in that conversation before she testified?
No.
This is all for the record, even though I don't believe a single thing she's saying. She's in cahoots with Carrie by now because Carrie's her minion. But this has to be on the record because they are not supposed to be conspiring with other witnesses.
You and Ms. Roberts ever discussed anything about either one of your testimonies, either in the last proceeding or in anticipation of this proceeding?
No.
So for the entirety of the last year, even though you both went through a proceeding last year where you both testified under oath and it was highly, highly publicized, neither one of you, your good friend Carrie Roberts and you, have ever discussed either of your testimonies between that time and this time.
No, we've discussed the case and we've discussed what happened that moment, the moments of the morning, but we have not discussed testimony.
Okay, so let's break that down for a second. I'm talking about, because the timing matters. I'm just asking at this point, if you'll bear with me, just the year from last year at a different proceeding to this year, you have discussed this case.
Yes.
With Ms. Roberts.
Many times, yes.
And you've discussed the specifics of her memory, which would be reflected in her testimony, correct?
We talked about what happened that morning.
So you were talking about what she remembers happening that morning, correct?
No, what happened that morning.
Okay, so not to put too fine a point on it, Ms. McCabe, but if you ask me what I had for dinner last night, it's my memory of what I had for dinner last night. Would you agree with that?
Sustained.
Did you talk about her?
You know, already she's evading answering questions. She's quibbling. She's a quibbler because she doesn't want to be trapped. But doing that, sidestepping, she's going to get trapped. And she's making herself look evasive to the jury, which leads to suspicion, which leads to not believing the witness. I hope, because it would me. Anytime a witness starts sidestepping, I know they're not being truthful.
Her perception of what happened at dinner last night. Would you agree with that?
Sustained.
Did you talk about her perception of what happened that morning during the last year?
We've talked about what has happened, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to break it down between you and Ms. Roberts. You've discussed her perceptions and her memory of what happened, as well as, and separate and apart from, your memory and your perceptions, correct?
Correct.
So there have been circumstances in which you and Ms. Roberts have compared, by definition, what she remembers versus what you remember, correct?
I wouldn't say compare.
Now let's move to what would you say in terms of what you've discussed and why?
I would say that we've both talked about what we've discussed, but it wasn't like a comparison. We weren't comparing anything.
You've talked about what you discussed. What does that mean? Talked about your testimony?
No, we've discussed what happened to that moment
Right.
and in those moments. So, when I got a phone call, and that's my story. I got a phone call in the morning, and then Carrie can say, yeah, I got a phone call as well.
As you said, that's your story,
Not
correct?
my story.
That's what you
It's
just
the
said.
truth.
That's
It's the
what you
truth.
just said.
Okay. So for instance, when you got a phone call at 4:53 in the morning, Carrie Roberts wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
But you've discussed that with her.
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception of that, your memory of that phone call was, even though she was not recipient to and did not witness that phone call, correct?
I've told her about the phone call. Correct.
As well as many other details that she was not privy to personally, correct?
Correct.
Conversations that you've had, for instance, conversations that you claim you've had with Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception is of those conversations, or your memory was or is of those conversations with Miss Reed, correct?
Which conversations with Miss
Any
Reed?
conversations, just anything that she wasn't privy to. You've discussed that with her.
Some things, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And conversely, Ms. McCabe, obviously, she's also discussed certain perceptions and memories that she has about this case and the facts that this case, as she recalls them, that you were not necessarily privy to, correct?
Yes.
Things that may have taken place outside your presence, correct?
Correct.
And you've talked about things, she's talked to you about things, now I'm getting myself confused. Y'all have talked about things that were outside of her perception and outside of your perception. And you've shared those with each other.
We've shared our experiences. We've become very close. We both lived through a traumatic experience.
How many times would you say you and Miss Roberts have discussed your individual perceptions of what you remember happening on the 28th or the 29th of January 2022? How many times?
It would be hard to put a number on that. We talk about, it's hard. We're bonded. We talk about the trauma that we relive every day. Karen called us for help and we both answered the phone.
And that bonding is the glue that holds you two together. Is this case, correct?
Yes.
So that probably, by definition,
Here's
is
the
the
sign.
foundation of many, many, many of your conversations. Would you agree?
We've grown into friends where we talk about many other things besides the case.
Sure, the movie you saw last weekend and what the kids are doing next week.
Yes. And yes, absolutely. We
Okay,
talk
so-
many different things, just like girlfriends do.
I'm just concerned with and asking you about the subject matter of this case and the details and the facts of this case. You two have probably talked hundreds of times, that's fair to say, about your individual perceptions, your respective perceptions of this case, correct?
This happened 3 years ago and we've talked about it time and time again. This case has traumatized us. So
And
it's a
talking
huge part
about-
of our lives.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
Oh,
you.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't hear the please.
I believe I meant traumatized our lives.
Okay. It would be impossible for you two to have had so many conversations about your respective perceptions of the details of that day without that influencing the other person, correct? You've somehow been influenced by Miss Roberts's perceptions and her memories, correct?
I don't think I would say influenced.
Would you say that she's been influenced by your perceptions and your memories?
Objection.
Would you say that, Ms. McCabe?
No, I wouldn't.
Next question.
How many times have you met with anybody from the DA's office? And I'm just going to limit the time frame right now in anticipation of your appearance in this trial yesterday and today.
I'd say roughly 4 or 5.
Can you give me a time frame when those 4 or 5 meetings were?
I don't have dates. I do remember at one point I met with Mr. Brennan. He was new to the case. So I went in and he introduced himself.
How long ago was that?
I
Weeks or months?
I can't give you a time frame. I'm sorry.
Do you think it was last summer?
No,
Do you think it was?
no, it was more recent.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
sorry.
wasn't in the fall of last year.
No,
It was in 2025 sometime?
I believe so. Yes.
You think it might have been February, January?
Again, I can't give you an exact. I'm sorry.
All right. I want to talk about the timeframes of those conversations, and I'll ask you a little bit more about those conversations. So that was the first meeting that you had was with Mr. Brennan in anticipation of your testimony. What were the subsequent 4 meetings or so that you've had? With whom and approximately what time?
Okay, so another meeting with Mr. Brennan. Are you looking for who was
Sure.
there?
Who else
I-
was there?
I mean, can I give you a general answer? I didn't write down like every meeting who was there, but
course.
generally, okay.
Was Mr. Lally there?
During 1 or 2 of the meetings, he was. Yes.
Was Ms. McLaughlin there?
Yes.
Was there anybody else from the DA's office there?
The officer or trooper Tully was there at one. Trooper Buchanan was there at one. The witness advocates were there. And again, give or take the particular meeting.
Those are 2 meetings that you've talked about with Mr. Brennan and others. What about the third meeting?
No, I'm sorry. I was lumping a few of them together.
Sure,
I
understood.
apologize.
How many meetings would you have? Let's just start there. How many meetings have you had with Mr. Brennan and either staff or colleagues?
So after the first initial meeting, I
Right.
would say, again, I didn't write them down off the top of my head. I can think of 2 or 3 more after that.
Okay.
Excuse me, first initial one.
So that's either 4 or 5 meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues, Mr. Lally, Ms. McLaughlin, perhaps, Mr. Nelson, perhaps, the other employee of the DA's office, and Troopers Buchanan and Trooper Tully.
Correct.
You asked questions about at any of these meetings. I'm just going to lump them all together. Any
Okay.
of these 5 meetings. By the way, when was the most recent?
Last night, I had a Zoom call in regards, I think the court asked them to.
Yes, I'm going
Yeah,
to stop you right there.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to ask a different question, and if you don't
Okay.
mind, I'm just going to lead you through this question.
Okay.
You had a conversation last night. I'm not interested in that particular conversation. That
Okay.
was for a very specific purpose. I'm asking you about everything leading up to, but not including last night's conversation, okay?
Okay.
So let's just leave that one out. You've had, I think you mentioned either 4 or 5 other meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues.
A lot of people are trying to figure out what that is. And I think some people know what it was about, but I'm not sure. I don't remember correctly. So I won't even, but it is strange because they all agree, no, it's not to be discussed. Prosecution, defense, and the judge. It's not to be discussed, whatever it is. So it's a curiosity.
Okay?
Okay.
So let's just leave that one out. You've had, I think you mentioned either 4 or 5 other meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues and or law enforcement.
Yeah, and I might have in the 5 included that one from last night.
Okay, fair enough. Were you asked questions in those, we're just going to call them 4 meetings. Were you asked questions during those 4 meetings about your testimony at the first proceeding last year?
I reviewed I did review some of my testimony, yes.
In what format?
I
A
watched.
paper transcript or do
No, we just watched a little bit of it.
you watch your direct examination?
A little bit, yes.
Did you watch your cross-examination?
A little, yes.
Who cross-examined you?
You did,
That was me.
yes.
And did you watch the redirect or any part of it?
No,
Did you watch any part of any subsequent version of recross or additional questions that you were asked?
I don't believe so, no.
Was there a specific area that Mr. Brennan asked you to look at and review in terms of your direct or your cross-examination?
No,
Did you watch the entirety of the direct examination and the entirety of the cross-examination?
I do not believe so, no.
Were you questioned by Mr. Brennan following your review of that direct and cross-examination?
No.
So he didn't ask you any questions about any of your answers?
I don't, he showed me a dash cam and would ask me to point out who's this, who's that, a waterfall video, is this you, is this somebody? Those were the type of questions that he asked me.
What about any discussion about your demeanor and how you performed in the last proceeding?
In other words, has she been coached on how to present herself this time as opposed to how she was last time, so that she will be more favorable to the jury? And that's, I think, what he's getting at.
Objection.
Sustained.
I'll ask it a different way. What about your demeanor? I'm using probably a poor word, perform, how you came across, your demeanor in the last proceeding.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you discuss changing your demeanor in any way, shape, form, or fashion from the last trial to, the last proceeding to this trial, my mistake. From the last proceeding to this trial, was your demeanor ever discussed?
No, I was just told to slow down, answer the question, and
That's part of demeanor.
answer it to the best of my memory.
Was there any discussion about talking about your background, for instance, your family and your children and being a sports mom, as you talked about in your direct examination?
No, I believe I did that in the previous one as well.
Was there any discussion about crafting your testimony in any way to suggest a softer approach?
No.
Was there any discussion about how to develop your testimony from beginning to end?
I object.
Sustained.
Did Mr. Brennan ask you about, or let me ask it a different way. Did Mr. Brennan take you through a series of questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either on direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, there
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
What were the things that stand out in your mind? You said you had at least 4 meetings. How long was each meeting, by the way, ish?
The first meeting, I think, was fairly quick. It was just the introduction.
30 minutes, less than 30 minutes?
I don't want to give a time because I'm not sure,
Okay.
but it was fairly quick, yes.
Okay. What about the second meeting?
Again, I don't know specific meetings, but I can tell you that there was a longer one where I did watch some dash cam video, look at different pictures, things like that.
What kind of pictures did you look at, other than the dash cam video?
The pictures of John's house.
Okay. The same photos that we saw today?
Yes.
How long in total would you say all of those meetings were? Just taking them all together.
I really can't give you
A ballpark.
I really can't give you an estimate. I think the first one was fairly quick. The second one, one of them was a little bit longer, maybe a couple hours.
Okay. Then the third one, was that also a couple hours, or was that one fairly quick?
That was fairly quick, yes.
So fair to say between 2, 3, 4 hours total meeting times?
Again, I'd have to probably go back and look at the date and the time. I really can't give you a specific amount of time. I apologize.
Did Trooper Tully or Trooper Buchanan ask you any questions during the course of any of these meetings?
Regarding the case, no, but we did briefly talk about how my kids were, how their kids were.
But they didn't ask you any questions about your testimony, about your about the case, about your memories, about specific facts?
I do not believe so, no.
During any of these meetings, was anybody taking notes? Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Lally, Mr. Brennan, any of the troopers?
The reason he needs to know about the note taking is that's part of discovery. And if notes were taken and not shared with the defense, that's a violation of discovery. As you will notice, that Brennan goes on and on and on and on about supposedly the defense not sharing all their discovery. That's basically why he's asking about the notes. I'm guessing. I'm not an attorney. I don't know anything. This is my best guess, my opinion, just from some of the shows that I've seen.
No, I don't believe so.
So there was several hours worth of meetings with you, and nobody scribed any notes that you saw.
None that I saw, no.
And these meetings were not recorded?
I do not believe so, no.
Ms. McCabe, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your family because I just want to make sure it's crystal clear who's who. You're married to Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes.
Your sister is Nicole Albert.
Yes.
Nicole is married to Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was Brian Albert's home that you were at, 34 Fairview, that you arrived at, where John's body was found, correct?
Yes.
The same home where that late night gathering was on January 28th, going into the morning of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself to be close with your sister Nicole and Brian?
Yes, very close.
Your families, it's not just you and Nicole, your whole families are close, correct?
Yes, we have a very close family.
How long have you known Brian Albert?
Since I was in kindergarten.
You consider him, even though he is not blood related to you, you consider him family.
Yes.
In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Just to be clear, and I'm going to do this slowly,
Okay.
Brian Albert's younger brother is Chris Albert, correct?
Pay attention, because Jackson is weaving a web. A, to show how close the families are, how interconnected everybody is, how they will draw that net of familiarity in to protect somebody who is at risk. He doesn't say that, but that's the end effect. And that's exactly what happened. And guess who's left on the outside? Miss Reed. Because she wasn't family, she wasn't connected. He did a good job here.
Yes.
Chris Albert is married to Julie Albert.
Yes.
You consider Chris and Julie family, even though there may not be a blood relation as well, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
And the Canton, that's in Canton? I said Select Board member, did I mention Canton Select Board member?
It is in Canton,
Okay.
yes.
All right, obviously it's in Canton. The Canton Police Department reports to the Select Board, correct?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that echelon?
No.
Okay. You're aware that Brian Albert, your friend of, I'm not going to say how many years, but since kindergarten, was a Boston police officer.
Yes.
He had been a lifetime law enforcement officer for some 30 years before he retired recently, correct?
Yes.
He's a trained first responder, obviously.
Yes.
Brian Albert and Chris Albert have another brother named Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
A lot of
Kevin
Alberts.
Albert is a detective with a police department, correct?
Yes, I believe that's his title. I'm not
Which-
100%.
Which police department is Kevin Albert associated with?
Canton.
And you've grown up in Canton your whole life, you indicated.
Yes.
Your entire family has grown up in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And you, Ms. McCabe, have three sisters. Nicole, we've talked about. You
Yep.
also have a sister named Shelley, is that right?
Michelle, yes.
Michelle.
Mhm.
And Denise, who you mentioned in your direct examination.
Yes.
Nicole is also known by nickname, is that right?
Yes.
What is Nicole's nickname within the family?
Coco.
Does Shelley also have a nickname? Well, I guess Shelley is the
Yeah,
shortened
Shelley
name for
is.
Michelle, correct?
Yes.
What about Denise?
She's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee?
Yeah, like Deeddee.
Your father lives close by in a neighboring town, correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me the town, but it's relatively close to Canton.
20 minutes, yes.
Okay. His name is Tom Weeks.
Yes.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children, cousins, second cousins.
I'm wondering why he brought up Weeks. Because that wasn't brought up last time. And all her sisters wasn't brought up last time that I remember. I mean, there's a lot of information that comes in these trials, and, you know, you can get overwhelmed very easily. But I'm curious as to why he's mentioning Weeks.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children, cousins, second cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. There's a combination of familial relations within that set of folks that I just talked about, Chris and Brian and Nicole and you and Matt and the folks that we've just talked about.
Yes.
That family, that large family, celebrates holidays together, I'm guessing?
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole.
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family.
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th.
Yes.
Special events.
Yes.
Spend weekends together.
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of.
Why not Kevin and Chris, though? That's an interesting distinction. Why not Kevin and Chris? But they spend a lot of time with everybody else, but not Kevin and Chris. Why not?
But my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole.
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated.
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Why
Along
not?
with Brian, Albert, and Nicole.
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family.
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th.
Yes.
Special events.
Yes.
Spend weekends together.
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of sporting events that y'all go to together.
Yes.
So it is very, very easy to see that it's an extremely close-knit family.
Yes.
And naturally, you're very protective of your family, as anybody would be.
Yes, I love my family.
You also said that you knew, and your words, liked Karen Reed, my client, on the 28th of January 2022, correct?
Yes.
But she very much is not family, correct?
Correct.
She certainly was not as important to you as your actual family, the Alberts, the McCabe's, the folks associated with them. Is that right?
Yes.
No hesitation. The outsider.
On January 28th, 2022, members of the Albert family and the McCabe family all went to a bar together, had drinks together that night. The Waterfall, we've heard a little bit about that, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately, you went back to your sister's house for the after party that we've heard so much about. That was at Brian Albert's house, is that right?
Yes.
She's trying to
You've been
figure out where he's
interviewed,
going.
I think you indicated multiple times. You didn't even give a number of how many times you've been interviewed by police in this case. Is that right?
Yes.
Your family is connected to people at Boston Police Department. We've just talked about that. Brian Albert, is that right?
Well, was a Boston police officer.
Right. So when I say connected, there is some familial or family or friendly connection to that police agency, Boston Police Department. It'd be Brian Albert in this case, correct?
The objection sustained.
There's also a connection to the Massachusetts State Police through your family. Is that right?
Objection.
So define connection.
Julie and Chris Albert are very, very close to you. correct?
I'm close with Julie and Chris, yes.
You're aware that Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney, is basically best friends with Julie.
No, I'm not aware of that. She's best friends with Julie's sister, Jillian.
Okay, so Courtney's best friends with Jillian, who's sisters to Julie,
Yes.
who's married to Chris, who's an Albert, who's the little brother of Brian Albert.
Yes.
Okay, and Canton Police Department. There's also some connections there as well. Kevin Albert being the most obvious of them.
Objection.
They don't like the connection part.
Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department?
Not with the department, but with Kevin Albert.
Right, who's a member of the department.
Yes, but my relationship's with him.
Understood. You've indicated that you've been interviewed by law enforcement agents associated with Massachusetts State, with Canton Police Department. That'd be Officer Lank.
Yes.
Can I
and
stop
Officer
you for a
Good.
second and see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sure.
Why, is it getting too close to the truth? No comment. They're clearing the court. But they didn't say why.
So we'll see in about 20 minutes.
Okay, maybe they did.
Please rise.
Let me back up. I'm taking a break, I think. Gonna let it run so we can hear.
So we'll see in about 20 minutes.
Okay,
Please rise for the jury. Jurors, right this way. Please leave your notebooks in your chairs.
we will fast forward about 20 minutes. Where'd my cursor go? Okay. Court is on a short break. Excuse me, I have had gas. Notice he's sitting over here now.
Oh, these?
Okay. When we watched this live, it took, well, I watched it with attorney Melanie Little's broadcast. And it went on and on and on. And then we heard that everybody was told to leave. And even nobody was to be in the halls outside of the courtroom. Only the Reed family and the O'Keefe family, the lawyers and the judge were allowed to be in here. Have no idea what was going on. At one point, Paul O'Keefe here, the glarer, who normally sits over here and stares at Karen Reed, at one point, it's alleged he was in the DA's office. So I don't know if there were some complaints from the jury. I don't know if at one point they got Paul and his wife and the lady with the black jacket and the gold buttons on her shoulders got kind of animated. So I don't know if they were reprimanded about that. So I don't know the behind the scenes on that, what was going on. Just that when they came back, Paul's over here. And then the next time they take a break or when they came back from lunch, he was sitting in the back row, which he has never done. So I don't know what the situation was. Okay. Okay, I think the jury is coming in.
And that's what happened here, so I appreciate. Jurors, thank you for your patience. Sometimes there are matters that we need to address, and that's what happened here, so I appreciate your patience. Mr. Jackson, could we please have Ms. McKay back in here? Oh.
Paul?
I don't know if it's common knowledge, but this trial, every single one of Karen's lawyers is doing it pro bono. They're not getting paid for this. That's how much they believe in their client.
All right, Mr. Jackson, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. When last we left off, we were talking a little bit about some of the familial connections that your family has with certain.
I want to bring up something else. People have complained about Karen's expression. If you look at her father and her brother, they have the same basic resting expression. It's not disdain. It's not arrogance. It's a familial trait, and people need to get over it.
Law enforcement agencies. We talked about Boston Police Department, obviously, Brian Albert. We talked a little bit about Massachusetts State Police and knowing friends of friends with regard to Chris and Julie, correct?
Yeah.
Knowing friends of Chris and Julie?
Friends of Chris and Julie.
Is that your relationship?
With who?
I had asked you about. I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
A little bit vague. Courtney Proctor is friends with Julie's sister,
Yes.
and obviously Courtney also knows Julie and Chris, correct?
Sustained.
And there's also a connection to Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert. Is that right?
Exactly.
Can you answer that? Is there a connection? Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department through Kevin Albert?
Not with the police department, but Kevin Albert is Brian Albert's brother.
Right. And Kevin works for whom?
The Canton Police.
Thank you. So you've been interviewed many times by different law enforcement agencies, be they Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police, or otherwise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those interviews have not just.
And they all know your family and who you're related to and who is connected with whom. But notice they don't want that word connection to come across. I'm so glad I found this thing. Now I can fix stuff so that I can back up.
Different law enforcement agencies, be they Massachusetts State Police, Canton Police, or otherwise, correct?
Yes.
Okay.